Okay, so I'm trying to do this mock inspection today on this little hive right here, and there's wasps over here, and they're harassing me and they won't leave me alone. Well, I had this fun, cool idea that we were going to be doing some mock inspections today, but the wasps have decided to take up a little bit of a residence inside this empty hive that I have here, and they're not super thrilled with the fact that I just opened everything up. So we'll have to see how we're gonna handle that. So we're gonna try to get in here. We're gonna get into this hive right here, and I'm gonna show you kind of the tips, tricks, or whatever that I would use to do a mock inspection. Now you're like, Jeff, why would I do a mock inspection? That's just silly. I'm a grown up, I don't need to do that kind of stuff. Whatever you do in any kind of a psychomotor, like a hands-on type of skill, you have to build muscle memory. You have to do it over and over again until you get it down pat and you can kind of do it in your sleep. So I want you to start getting used to doing all the things that you need to do when doing an inspection. Do it now before the bees get here. Get used to putting on your gear, cracking the hive open, where you smoke, when you smoke. I'm gonna walk you through all this right now, and we'll do as best we can without actually having bees in the hive. This is the best way to start practicing this up front before the bees get there. So let's go to it. Okay, now in a very paranoid way, I'm trying to move around this hive so that the wasp doesn't catch me. Okay, so my first recommendation is get your gear ready. In this case today, we're gonna use a frame rack. We've got a smoker and a hive tool. That's all we'll need for this kind of introductory exercise here. You saw me just put those things on top of the hive. I'm gonna recommend that when you approach the hive, don't start throwing a bunch of things on it like that. That sound and that vibration will carry into the hive. Put your things on the ground, put them in a cart, put them somewhere else. I'm just gonna set them over here off to the side. Now I approach the hive. The first thing I usually do is look to the front and just look for some general activity. I just wanna see roughly what's going on. I'm not really trying to solve any problems. So assuming that your smoker is already lit, what I normally do is come to the front, put a couple of puffs of smoke across the front, go to the back over here, lift up the back, hit a couple of puffs, and then close it right back down. Now you saw that this lid opened up really easily. That's only because there are no bees in there and nothing is being propolized. Once we get to the inside, I'll shave off some propolis from the inside and show you what that looks like. Now you have this smoke in there, and they kind of got the alarm. They go, okay, there's some smoke, something's going on. They're kind of getting distracted with that a little bit. Give it 15, 20 seconds, and then from there you can go ahead and open up the lid. Now, I usually put the lid somewhere nearby in case I need to put something in it that I don't want to get lost, or I don't want it to end up, going into the grass somewhere where I can't find anything. Now, from here, you can go ahead and hook on your frame rack. You may or may not need these. I just got buzzed by the wasp again. You may or may not need these. You may or may not like these. Completely up to you. You don't have to use them. Now, you can see in here, I also got a frame feeder, and I've got 6 frames. This is an 8-frame setup. This is a 1.5 frame feeder, or a 1.5 frame width feeder. Now, when you come into the hive, normally you're gonna have your frames, they should roughly be spaced out in a way that is fairly even. Now, there's a lot of different frame debates and different debates about how, oh wow, I just realized that the wasp nest that was under this lid has fallen out. Oh, yep, okay, here we go, that's fun. Okay, yeah, we may not get this done today. Anyway, this is really distracting with there's like 5 or 6 wasps around here right now. Okay, so the frames, it's a great area for subject for discussion and debate, but a lot of people will push all the frames to one direction. So that, for example, they'll come all the way here, push everything up against one another. Like you can see, we can almost get another frame in here, but they'll push them all up against one another. So when they come in, they can just separate the first one here like this, bring it out, and then from there, just separate them all individually. If you do that, it's going to impact the way they draw the comb. You do want them to have a little bit of space. So what a lot of people will then do is give all the space to one side or the other. So you give a little bit of space in between, and it might be difficult to see this here, but we're putting about 1/2 inch or so, 1/4 inch in between them. But now here at the end, I've got a lot of wiggle room. Now the reason that wiggle room at the end is important is because when these are all stuck together, and I'm going to try and get some of this out of here, but this substance right here that you might be able to see there, that gooey kind of stuff right there that's in my hand, Oh, well, there we go. There's the wasp again. All right. That stuff in my hand is propolis. And I'm going to try and get you to where you can maybe see this even better. But see how it's all along the edge, right in here. See all this stuff here? It's also along the top here. See that? That is all propolis right there. And that is super, super sticky. So when you have this all together with bees in here, propolizing everything shut, getting the first one out sometimes is the worst of it. So a lot of times if you have it like I've got it set up now, where you can see we got a lot of space here, you can just take your hive tool, put it in between the two, and wedge one against the other like this, and push it this way. Or if you had them more in, you can start from the inside and wedge this way. However you want to do it, you'll find a system that works for you. But just remember that if you have them spaced apart and you push them up against one another, you're pushing comb against comb and bees against bees. So you want to be mindful of how you're doing that. But the part I want you to get used to is, let's say you've got everything evenly spaced out. Now, if these frames are touching each other, I want to move to the other side and get out of that shadow, but the, the wasps are still all over the place. Oh, it's driving me nuts. All right, let's see here. Maybe that'll work. Okay, if these frames are touching each other, like you can see right here on this edge where they are, you can just slide your hive tool in between, push them this way, or just come to the outside here and push in between them. Just leverage, use the leverage of the hive tool for that separation. Now, unfortunately, propolis is one of those things where it's like I can't really explain to you how it looks, works, and feels. You kind of have to experience it for yourself. But what I do want you to get accustomed to is coming up with a system. So let me show you a system that works for me when I'm doing a very detailed inspection. I'll start with this first frame. So I go ahead and I get it loose, remove the frame. I'm going to take a peek here usually. Now, a lot of times this first frame, when I'm looking at it, it's not because I'm overly excited or expecting to see a whole lot of anything entertaining or of interest in this frame. The reason I'm doing this is to make space for the others. Now, look at all this extra space I have here. I know this is my number one frame. This is the one that came from this slot. When you're taking frames out, come up with a methodology where you are replacing them in the same order you remove them. Now, from here, you actually don't even really have to remove any more unless you want to put a frame aside. So maybe, for example, this frame, let's say there was a queen cell on it, and you want to save it. You take your marker that you have with you in your pocket or in your bag that you carry or whatever, and just put a Q here on the frame, and you can just set it right here on the outside, or write a Q on it and move it over. But this is my plan moving forward. I separate the frames, I look at what I want to see, and then I put that frame back here. And then as I keep doing it, I take it out, I see what I want to see, flip it over, set it back down. And I just keep going down the line. When it's time to put everything back together, I just take this frame, move it back to its most recent position. Do the same thing with the next one. And the next one, I get it back where it needs to go. It's funny, there's so much propolis on the inside here, you can see it flaking off, that the frames don't even slide across the inside of this. You guys are gonna have some fun with that for you new folks. And then that last frame, which was the first frame, comes back in and goes back down into that spot. And then from there, again, you can go ahead and kind of reorganize them a little bit. Don't spend too much time with it, but get it to a point where there's a little bit of space between them. But primarily, you want that first one to be able to move one way or another to get you started. Now, I would say practice this 5, 10, 20 times if you want to before you get your bees, so you at least kind of get used to taking them out, putting them back in. So one last quick comment on this. When you're taking them out, don't start grabbing them and banging things around, right? What I want you to do is once you feel it loose, take your fingertips just like this, grab the frame, and I want you to just squeeze them together. Just squeeze them together like that. So you do that on both sides. Just squeeze them together, lift that frame, and then nice and easy, you take it out like this, and then you can get it to where you can see it. And when you want to see the other side, don't violently flip it over, right? Just take your hand. I usually switch one hand at a time, and then the other, and then other, and kind of walk it over to where I can look at the other one. Be mindful, if they have nectar, the nectar cells are angled slightly upward. So if you flip it upside down, you'll start dumping nectar, so pay attention to that. It doesn't happen all the time, it does happen every now and then. Okay, folks, that's all I've got for you on the mock inspection. Do this a few times before you get your bees, and hopefully it'll get you ready for for the big day. Let us know in the comments what you do to prep for the big day when you get your bees, and keep in touch with us in the Discord room and beekeepingfornewbies.com. Take care.